So, in the last part, we have got our data with the right encoding technique, and we were able to create a new data frame with all the clean one. Now, you might be wondering why we need the data cleaning too, because we have not yet dealt with the missing values, right? So there are a lot of missing values in the data, and now we will see that how to deal with them. Now, the first thing is we gonna load up again the same files which we have created last time. So which was round clean.csv and companies clean.csv. Now let's quickly verify whether in those cleaned data we are getting the records as expected. So if you remember, we were expecting 66,368 records. So we can look at the unique values, and if you look at this, this should be 0, right? Means that there should be no output where I have a permalink present here but not present here, something like that. So now let's go and do the missing value treatment and see that how much missing values we do have. In order to deal with it, we gonna look at the missing value and do the sum of all that, and these are the missing values. Now it's a little difficult to interpret here, so we would like to see it in the percentage format rather than this format. So before that, let's also quickly look at the rounds data frame missing values, and yes, we do have some missing values here as well. So what we will do is we will look at the percentage format and on the merged data of both. But if you look at it, what is the common columns which is possible for them? We have a permalink column, right? So permalink column. So these two columns are same here. So what we would like to do is we would like to see that how we can perform basically this merge. So this companies and rounds we're gonna merge, we're gonna do an inner join, and we will do it on this particular column. Let's look at the data. So this is how the data merged data is gonna appear like. Let's go ahead and look at the column of the master data frame. This is the column, but notice one thing. We still have a permalink here, and we also have even company permalink here. We don't need both, right? We have already merged them. So why we need both? So let's remove this unnecessary extra column. So what we will do, we will drop the company permalink here. Now let's look at the column. All look good. Now let's go back to the missing value data. Now, as I said, it will be a good idea if we look at the missing data from the point of view of percentage rather than looking at the raw data. And in order to do this, what we can do, we can look at the missing value sum divided by total number of indexes present in it. So this will give us the percentage. Now, so in this percentage, we can see that this is definitely one of the waste column here, because 70, almost 72.91%, which is 73% of the data is kind of not available. So we would like to remove it. And similarly, if you look at some more columns, right? Let's say if I talk about homepage URL, business point of view, it may not make sense. Similarly, if I look at some other column, let's say funded ad, right? Basically founded ad. This is basically a waste column. Funded ad may be useful, so let's keep it. Similarly, we have state code, region, city. So these columns may not be, from the business perspective, they may not be useful. So I would like to remove them up. So let's drop all these unnecessary columns. And now let's look at again the missing value data. Now raised amount USD have 17.39% of missing data. Now what you can do with this? Think on it. Now, one way is you may say that, oh, this is too huge number of missing data, let's move it. No, but this is the main column on which you want to do all your analysis. So you cannot simply remove this particular column. So what we should do? The next thing which comes in our mind, that should we think of doing some imputation here? So before we do any sort of imputation, let's quickly explore this data. And while exploring this data, I'm going to use this describe. And in this describe, what we're going to do, we're going to say that, okay, we have a count of this. This is sounding good. But if you look at this, my mean and median have a huge difference. Look at this mean. This is 10 to the power 7. And look at the median, which is 10 to the power 6. It's the mean is somewhere around like 10 million and median is around like 1 million, right? So there's a huge difference. Even if we look at the minimum and maximum value, there's a huge difference between them, right? They are continuously very far apart. So definitely imputing the mean will not be good, because there's a huge variation of data in this particular case. Now one way is either you can just remove some outliers by using some methods which we have learned in the sections. That can be one way, or other way is you can probably remove these 17% data which is missing, and I would prefer to choose to remove that, but I leave this as a homework exercise for you guys to maybe look at the outlier component and see that how you can remove these particular outliers from here and then do imputation on it. So maybe you can do a median imputation or a mean imputation, up to you. So now here what we are going to do is we gonna remove that. So what I've done, I've just basically said that take only the master data frame where I don't have the missing value, right? So this is basically the code which is gonna help me remove all the missing data from it. Now let's again quickly look at how much missing data we are left with. So we can see the next one is country code, which still have quite a good missing data. Let's go and explore this also. So let's quickly see the value count because it's a categorical data. So maybe we can see that how the countries are distributed, and we can see here that USA is occurring 62,049 times, GBR is occurring 5,019 times, and so on. So we can notice that this data is also not uniformly distributed. You can see that most of the country code is like USA and maybe the initial few countries, but coming down it's very low in number. So maybe imputation here will also be tough. How you would say that, what imputation should you do? Can you say that really I should put USA everywhere? Mode? Um, Maybe a good strategy, but might not be good, right? Because this is a real data set, and we would not like to randomly put any data just like that because the distribution is not that great. But yes, one strategy could be that you could have gone with mode. Means some data scientists could have approached with the mode factor, which is USA, and applied here. But my strategy would be that since it's just 6%, let's remove them. So I will just remove them out because the percentage also, if we look at 65% is USA and remaining is very low. This is just to look at the percentage part. Now let's remove them. As I said, let's remove all the country code which are missing. Let's look at the percentage again, and this time you can see that we have only category list which is 0.65. Let's remove them simply. This is very less. So let's remove them out, and we remove the category list wherever also we have missing value, and now we have left with this. Now you can see this, and we can write it up again to a CSV file, and if we see this information, you can see that there's no missing value. One more thing which we can also do is that we can see that how much data we are retaining after removing all those missing value, because if you have noticed that every time we were just removing our missing values, right? Now we would like to see that how much missing data after removal of missing data, the data we have retained. So we are left with almost 77% of the data, which is good, right? We have lost 23%, and given that this data set was pretty huge comparatively, so it's okay if we have kind of removed this much. So this is what we will be left with, and we will now use this data frame which is clean data for our further analysis.